Remember when the Democratic Party had a shred of a belief in freedom and democracy? The far-left Bernie Sanders contingent used to be existing kind of only on the fringes, while more establishment figures like Hillary Clinton and so forth, they ran the show. But no more. Big Democratic donors have begun to support some of the hard-left socialist candidates that have emerged on the scene recently. Last night's elections told us a lot. Top Democratic billionaires Tom Steyer and George Soros put their money behind far-left Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum for Florida governor. Now, defying expectations, he pulled off a primary victory last night against 6 other candidates. Gillum is the African-American male version of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He's young, he's kind of dynamic, and he's running on a platform of universal Medicare, legalized marijuana, and abolishing ICE. Exciting. And he's viewed by hard-left Democrats as kind of a savior from the stranglehold that the party's establishment have had on their desires, hopes, and dreams. They picked the perfect guy. His city hall, under investigation, FBI, corruption, and Tallahassee boasting Florida's highest crime rate 3 years running. Good going, guys. That's something to run on. But let's look at who his supporters are. Of course, many of you will be familiar with George Soros, the billionaire who's funded the Liberal Center for American Progress, MoveOn.org, and his Open Society Foundation, which spreads money all over the place globally, by the way. In the 2016 campaign cycle, the New York Times Magazine reports that Soros spent $25 million on that loser campaign of Hillary Clinton and other leftist candidates and causes. This year, he's already blown $15 million to support Democratic candidates and other causes. Now, Gillum knew a good deal when he saw it. So last year, he courted Soros's organizations and spoke at a number of their gatherings. Then when they met up in San Francisco, Soros promised to back his gubernatorial run. He was impressed with Gillum. Billionaire San Francisco financier and philanthropist Tom Steyer also bankrolled Gillum's campaigning, and he saw him as basically a new and almost improved version of Obama because he was more left-wing. Now, remember, Steyer is the activist who just finished up a 30-city town hall tour. And, you know, he's contemplating his own 2020 run for president. That's part of what he's doing here. And he's not letting the grass grow underneath him. Steyer is running ads encouraging people to sign a Trump impeachment petition. Steyer himself is kind of the impeachment pitchman. He's openly urging the president's removal from office.
How much more does Congress need to see? Donald Trump has now been implicated in 2 felony crimes, and he's all but confessed to them on Fox News. No one is above the law, so we have to make sure this president doesn't use pardons to cover up crimes. If you agree that a president should not be allowed to pardon himself or his associates, join us at needtoimpeach.com. The Washington establishment doesn't have the courage to act, but the American people can.
I should add that Steyer funneled about $800,000 into the Get Out the Vote initiative prior to the Gillum run. So he was critical in that Gillum race as well. But listening to that impeachment commercial for a second, you think about the Democratic establishment, right? They've tried to keep the impeachment talk at arm's length. Well, what they're really doing is letting the Billionaires Boys Club do their dirty work for them, because they know that this mobilizes the far-left base, keeps them kind of happy. And it gives Nancy Pelosi, maybe even Schumer, Swalwell, those types, kind of plausible deniability. Well, that's not us. That's Tom Steyer. And Steyer has promised to spend at least $30 million to elect progressives this campaign season. This means, by the way, that he, not Soros so far, is the single most important Democratic donor in the United States. But like Soros, Steyer, he's not content to support the Democratic, anyone who's running, any Democratic establishment person who comes along. His is bankrolling far-left radicals who will upend the political system. That's where his mind is. He was at that, I like to call it the Netroots Convention. All those far lefties. I got to crash that. Matt Schlapp's here. We got to crash that someday, Matt. And they were in New Orleans earlier this summer. Check it out.
How many people in this room think that the Democratic establishment in Washington is listening to you and doing what you want? Seriously, their message to me and the 5.5 million Americans who are demanding Donald Trump's impeachment is that it's bad politics. It's off message, and it will galvanize the Republicans. To you and to me and to millions of Americans, this is all pretty obvious.
He should have worn a hoodie instead of no tie. He's trying to be like a really cool blue-collar guy. I'm going to wear no tie. I'm going to button the shirt. It's so weird. If you're going to have it open, button the next button down. It looks weird. Sorry. Women make these comments. I have a question, though. Does he think, was Maxine Waters out of town that day? It was like no one's talking about impeachment. Some of them are. Anyway, Steyer is using his billions to ensure the candidacy of these newly minted socialists who he hopes will swamp America, the whole electoral landscape for the Democrats. And Florida is a great place to start, because if you can flip Florida, keep it blue, or get it back to where they think it should be blue, they think they can take the presidency as well. That's what this is really all about. It's about 2020. But here's the irony. Both Soros and Steyer, of course, made all their dough being aggressive capitalists, global capitalists. Remember, Soros bet all that money over in Eastern Europe when the Soviet Union fell. Big money, then he shorts the dollar. These guys have an inside deal on the, hardcore capitalism. But now that they have their billions, they want to spread the gospel of socialism. That's devastating countries like Venezuela. 2 million people have left Venezuela. Huge health crisis in Venezuela. And also now in Nicaragua. We have 200,000 people who fled Nicaragua. I'm going to tell you more about that story as the weeks go on. Even Europe is beginning to reject the old socialist way. In fact, this is kind of funny. George Soros' former protege, Viktor Orban, was just re-elected prime minister of Hungary earlier this year, and Orban ran against Soros' old buddy. So this is like anti-Soros mania. They had big billboards up, and he won big in Hungary. The Soros-backed Open Society Foundation, in fact, had to close its Budapest offices less than a month after Orban, his former protege, got reelected. I love that story. But back here in the United States, it would be so foolish for us in the Republican Party, among conservatives, to just kind of dismiss this as these are a bunch of billionaires wasting their money. Well, sometimes they have wasted their money, like on Hillary. But this is not a passing fad. This is the direction the Democrats are going in. You got all these young people, they think socialism is just kind of a social club. They don't know the history of socialism. So conservatives better redouble their efforts to educate the young about the false promises and the dangers of socialism. We know they're not being properly taught about the perils of socialism in the public schools, private schools either, for that matter, and universities. So we have to do it. And we have to commit real dollars to social media campaigns, exposing what socialism is doing, make them cool, make them sexy looking, make them educational. Got to plaster social media with that. And we have to support conservative candidates who are good or great in front of the camera to repel this leftist advance. If we don't act now, you can expect Tom Steyer's impeachment petition to grow longer and longer. And that's the angle.